Greetings, gentlemen and ladies. I am the Crypto Game Snob, and in today's video we are taking a look at some of the most expensive cards available in Gods Unchained. These are NFTs that you can hold and you can play the game with, of course, for those of you who are new to Gods Unchained. Now, for those of you, like I say, who are new to Gods Unchained, there are 3 expansion packs. Currently, of course, we have the Genesis set, which was the first expansion set that was released. We have Trial of the Gods, which was the second expansion, and we are now on to the third expansion, which is Divine Order. Now we're going to start by looking at some of the Genesis cards, checking out the value of my buddy here, Demogorgon, Jason, Apocalypse Now, for example. But what we're going to do is we're actually just going to look at the lowest quality level for each of these cards. If you're new to Gods Unchained, it takes 5 meteorite cards to make a shadow, 5 shadow cards to make a gold, and 5 golds to make a diamond. So in a diamond card, there's 125 meteorite cards. These cards act exactly the same when you're playing the game, but they have, well, a whole lot more value on the token trove on the Immutable Axe marketplace. They are much more expensive to hold one of these shiny cards. But for our purposes today, we're going to be taking a look at the base cards. That is the cheapest version of the card, which you can play in the game, all the same stats, all the same everything as a shiny card, but just looking at the most expensive cards, pure and pure, true and true, meteorite compared to meteorite. Kicking things off here with Genesis. Let's start with Genesis and let's take a look at the top cards in the game, most expensive cards. We have Demogorgon at the top of the list. If you haven't played Gods Unchained before, if you've only played a little bit, you've probably heard of Demogorgon. Now, Demogorgon is an insanely powerful card. Basically what this card does is it puts all of your opponent's creatures to sleep, and then of course it does 3 damage to a random sleeping creature, and it has that leech effect. So that leech effect heals you, and this is very good in board wipe death decks. This is very good in sleep deception decks. Any deck where you're trying to get to higher manas and you want to delay your opponent for a certain number of turns, Demogorgon can just really be helpful in that regard. A very expensive card for new players to try to acquire. Now we're up to $2,000 now. I was looking at this just a couple days ago. We were at $1,600, and I remember almost buying a couple of these around the $1,000 mark, and I'm kind of kicking myself here, wish I would have, because I have no Demogorgons in my deck, unfortunately. Probably like a lot of you watching, but there you have it. Most expensive meteorite card in the game is Demogorgon. This is an epic card, not even a legendary card. It's just so powerful, and that's why it's up at the top. Anyway, next up we have Jason's. Jason, Medea's Muse. This is a very powerful card, again for the end game. Straight up, it is a 3 mana 3/3, which is a super solid stat card. But what you can do with this is delve a legendary card creature 3 times and then add that to your deck. So if you don't want to spend a lot of your cards, your 30 card deck, on legendary creatures, powerful endgame creatures, well, you just drop in a Jason instead, and you could potentially delve 3 extremely powerful cards that don't clutter up your deck, allow you to keep like a low curve deck or a medium curve deck or whatever the case may be, or just 3 extra creatures for your deck for a 3 mana 3/3, which is a super solid stat card. Straight up, there's really no wonder that this is a very powerful second most expensive card in the game. Apocalypse Now. This is just insane. Death card, destroy all creatures again. Alright, so basically what this does is it destroys all creatures, and then anything which was warded or, you know, in any way avoided that first board wipe, it gets the second board wipe. So this just wipes the entire board no matter what. Everything is gone. So board wipe, death, Apocalypse Now. This card is also shot up in cost a whole bunch. Just like what is this, like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it was about half the price where it's trading now. Now we're trading up at about $780. Just insane. Super high expensive price on that card. And here's the thing for you new players. The decks which have already been released, like Genesis and Trial of the Gods, once those cards are officially released and no longer subject to balancing, they will always stay the same. They will never be changeable. Alright, so if you get core cards, if you get Divine Order cards, which are currently the current expansion deck that they're still balancing, if you buy those cards, which you can buy right now, those cards are still subject to change. Some might be buffed, some might be nerfed. We don't know until they officially launch that expansion set. But Genesis and Trial of the Gods, which we'll look at next, are totally stuck where they are. They're never going to change. And that brings us to our next card here. We have Highborn Knight. Very, very good card in light decks, just because of that frontline, protected, and ward that makes this very sticky card, a very difficult card to get past at that early 4 points of mana, because it is ward and protected and has frontline. It gives you some time to drop down, something that buffs up your entire line or something like that. Highborn Knight, very helpful, very good at stalling the game. Oh, right, next up we have my personal favorite, Avatar of Nature. Now this is just a super solid 5/5 stat card at 5 mana, which at the end of the turn summons a 1/1 walking plant. A 1/1 walking plant heals you for 4 every time it dies, so if this sticks around even for 1 turn or several turns, you can get a huge amount of healing out of your Avatar of Nature. We are currently at the 5th most expensive card in the game, and actually our new 6th most expensive card in the game is Pyramid Warden. If you guys saw my video yesterday, this card just recently rocketed up in value. It was trading more around the $300 mark. We are currently sitting at the $500 mark. Don't know why that card isn't loading. This is an extremely powerful early game play. That is just because we have 2/6 stats for 2 mana with frontline. So for light decks or potentially even nature decks or anything that can help to keep this card buffed up, something like a Moonlight Charm to make this card more sticky on the board. This can be very, very difficult to deal with early on in the game. The only downside is that the afterlife on this card is to summon a random card from your opponent's void onto their deck. So when your opponent kills this card, they get a card back from their deck. So there can be a little bit of chicken. You know the game chicken about when you play Pyramid Wardens, in terms of figuring out when you want that Pyramid Warden to die, or if you're trying to kill it, when you want to kill it, and what cards you want to try to get back from it. So, but that all being said, that downside aside, this is still a very powerful early game card, which is in most decks. It's in a lot of decks. Okay, next up we have Avatar at War, selling around $500. I'm going to kind of skip and blaze past a lot of these ones that don't see a huge amount of play. Avatar of War, of course, around $500. This has kind of actually been shooting up as well. Since October it was around 200, now we're up to around 500. Avatar of War, Avatar of Deception, kind of the same idea. Everything's just going up, up, up. Avatar of Magic around $360. Now in the last month this hasn't changed much, probably because you don't see much Mana 9 Magic play right now currently in the meta. Size of the Harvest, on the other hand, you do see this one quite often. This was as low as $6 in May. Man, oh man, would have been nice to buy about 1,000 of these in May, right? It is currently selling for $300. And this is a very powerful card. I'll talk about this one because we see this one quite a bit in most war decks, or at least the war decks that can afford it. We have God Blitz on a 4/2 relic. Give 1 strength to a random friendly creature. Sure, nice little additional bonus there. But the main thing is 4 damage with the God Blitz, and you can use that twice. So that is an 8 damage, 4 mana card that you can buff up with something like Warmonger Smith, making this a 6/2. All in all, a very strong card to have. Let's continue along. We have the Harvester around $250. We have Ashtra's Envoy, Death Unborn, Ashen Drake. A lot of these don't see a lot of play. We have Expectant Chicken around $189. I see this one from time to time. Peculiar Spellworm, I've never seen this one played unless I'm playing it. Actually, I played this one just last night. Drew my opponent at 4 mana. I drew him a 1 mana End Times, 8 mana End Times Skull, yeah, no. This is a very interesting card because the Roar is your opponent randomly pulls a spell from their deck, and that cost of that spell is reduced to 1. Now this could be very insignificant if they pull something like Canopy Barrage, or it could be very unfortunate if they pull something like End Times, which my opponent did last night. 1 mana 2/6 though. Those stats are huge, but this is a very flip the coin and hope for the best sort of card. Kind of fun. It's interesting to see this card kind of up a bit in value. This had been trading more around the $60 range for a long time, but now we're actually up to that $180 range. I never see it played. I never see it played like ever, but apparently it is still buying and selling. I'm not too sure why. It would be fun to see this played. Anyway, what else have we got here? Let's continue to scroll through some of the cards that we still see from Genesis. Underbrush Boar. Oh, this is actually probably one of my very favorite cards in the game. I love this card so much. This is a blitz creature that can actually go through front line. It can go through, it can hit back line. It can hit anything on the board, basically. I don't know if it can hit ordered things or not. I don't think it can hit ordered things. Maybe it can. I can't remember. But anyway, this is a pretty solid 3/3 card that attacks randomly at the end of the turn. Now that's the only thing, is you don't know where this card is going to go, but this basically acts like a canopy barrage, with the upside being that if it doesn't die, you get to keep it for a second turn. Right? Underbrush Boar is very good for controlling the board, keeping that tempo on your, keeping the tempo basically. Gloam Druid, here's another one that doesn't see a huge amount of play but has potential to be very strong. This is a 2-mana 2/2 that gives +2 strength to all of your confused creatures, which is basically every creature if you're playing nature. This one up as high as $170 for a while. We're kind of down a little bit here around the $115 mark, but I think I picked up this card somewhere around the $20 mark not too long ago. I probably should have got 2 of them. I only got 1 of them. I don't use it much. I find it hard to implement, but in theory it could be very good. Anyway, what else have we got here? We've got Compost Charm. That's another one that's very interesting. It gives you 10 points. It heals you for 10, and it gives you, if you have, only if you have 8 cards in your void. It adds a random nature card to your hand, but that's not actually too hard to get. 8 cards in your void by the time you actually need some healing. So that's a nice big 2-mana 10-point heal. That is currently valued at $121. What else have we got here? I think that's probably going to cover the list. Actually, let's talk about Master Tactician. Also a very good war card. See this one played a lot. This is rocketed up in value from $3 whole on May the 31st, you guys, and that is why I am currently buying up quite a lot of Divine Order cards, which are cheap right now, because you never know which one's going to become worth $100 in a few months, right? Like, it's clearly happening. It's happened, right, in a couple of occasions. I don't know how long it'll take to happen, or if the increased supply of Divine Order cards will kind of change the game a bit. But then again, we have an increased player base as well, right? So it's hard to say. I don't know. I'm buying some cheaper cards on speculation myself. So Master Tactician, very good card. 2-mana, 2/2 with protected. Also gives all other creatures flank till the end of the turn. So you can potentially make some interesting plays out of that. This is actually an interesting one that I just added to my deck. This is Laura Grimm Spell Thief. Hidden and backline. So it's backline, which is kind of cool. So you can use this to trigger Frenzy, right? And she's a little bit harder to get to. She's only 1 mana, 1/1. And in order to clear her from behind that backline, you kind of have to play a spell, right? And you can't play a spell without giving a copy of that spell to your opponent. So in my deck, which has almost no spells, this is kind of an interesting card to throw in that I've been experimenting with. Laura Grimm, Spell Thief, kind of fun, kind of interesting. What else have we got here? Glass Cannon, good in theory. I never see it played, but this is a 3-mana 7/2 with Blitz. The only downside is that your opponent gets a 3/3 Iron Anim, so that's a pretty big gift that you give your opponent for whatever card you clear out of that. Now that is a 7-mana or 7 damage attack card with Blitz, so you could clear something pretty big potentially with it. But yeah, interesting. This one I never see played. This is now at $70, the Amplification Machine. I always find this to be very interesting. Ability, so number 1, it's only 3 mana and it has 7 health, so it's fairly difficult to get off the board early on. That's quite a lot of health to deal with, right? But if you're dealing with all of that health, you're not attacking other things. If you're trying to get rid of this and spending all of your attack on this card, you're not necessarily dealing with other things that might be more pressing. But if you don't deal with this, you add a random creature with Roar to your hand every single turn, right? So that's actually pretty cool. I've used that to some interesting effect myself. Anyway, Cudgel of Atonement, also a very good card for nature. Sorry, not nature, for light. Ragnarok. I just actually picked up a few of these for my war deck. 1 mana, deal 3 damage to each god and give each creature burn +3. This is basically a board wipe. It doesn't happen instantly, but it basically will wipe the board eventually. It might be sooner, it might be later, but that burn +3 will guarantee wipe the board for 1 mana. For 1 point of mana. Crazy. Anyway, Yeah, some of these Genesis cards are just crazy. Anyway, you guys, I don't want to make this video too long, but I'll make another video talking about Trial of the Gods next, and then Divine Order after that. But that's a look at some of the most expensive cards in the Genesis set at the moment. All right. Hey, thank you very much for watching the video. My subscribers, you guys are rock stars. I appreciate the support. My viewers, thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the future. Check out the Discord link below to join our tiny little community, tiny little growing community on crypto gaming and basically the NFT space and all that sort of stuff, trying to discover the rare hidden gems, the opportunities before it explodes, before it's too late to get in on early action. Oh yeah, that's what it's all about. See you guys later.